One unbending life rule is, don't get involved in things you don't understand, and don't partake in arguments you don't really get. But sometimes, something really interesting happens, and you just wade in to see what it's about. That's exactly what is going on in the golf world right now. Some believe that the former world number one and commissioner of the upstart tour might soon be fired or replaced, while others believe he's here to stay. But which of the speculations is correct? Stick around to find out. Greg Norman is known for several reasons, one of which is his inability to be replaced. Although the former world number one has established himself as the face of LIV's initial season, the Breakaway Tour is in discussions to replace its controversial chief executive. And guess who's tipped to fill in the Aussie pro golfer spot? A former chief executive of TaylorMade, Mark King. King is a well-known figure in the golf industry and is the current chief executive of Taco Bell. During his tenure at TaylorMade, he increased the company's sales to over £1.5 billion from £263 million. According to Michael Bamberger of the Fire Pit Collective, King told him that within the next 5 years, LIV Golf will be another tour among existing tours and that the golf community will learn to get along. Mark can be credited with growing TaylorMade into one of the world's most influential and leading sports equipment makers. Mark was with the brand from the late 90s until 2014, starting as a sales rep and working his way to the top. You could tell King was a showman because he loved being on stage to unveil new products and even starred in the CBS TV series Undercover Boss. Sales grew, reaching $1.7 billion at the same time in 2013. Aside from driving sales and pushing his R&D teams, TaylorMade debuted White Crown drivers, multiple driver releases, and adjustable weights in drivers under his leadership. King was a champion of taking golf in new directions and broadening its appeal. In early 2014, Mark pushed TaylorMade to donate $5 million to an initiative called Hack Golf, which advocated for golf courses to consider adding 15-inch holes to greens, thereby making the game easier for beginners. So there's no denying that bringing him on board may positively transform the upstart tour. But what happens to Greg Norman? Greg has been a controversial figure throughout his tenure and has shown no signs of letting up in his continuous pursuit of PGA Tour stars. At the LIV's final season in Miami this year, he warned his venture was here to stay. However, there are reports that the great white shark is set to be offered a different company role. Norman has been a divisive figure and was even criticized in May for comments on Saudi Arabia's terrible human rights record. While he attended an event to promote his new circuit, most questions surrounded the murder of the Saudi journalist at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and accusations of sports washing. His response was disturbingly nonchalant as he suggested we've all made mistakes. Everybody has owned up to it, right? The Australian international said. It has been discussed. From what I've read and based on what you guys reported, no matter what it is, take ownership. Look, we've all made mistakes, and you just have to learn from them and ensure you can better them moving forward. Back in February of last year, a U.S. intelligence report revealed that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was complicit in Khashoggi's killing, an allegation that he denies. Bin Salman is also the chairman of Saudi's public investment fund, PIF, which bankrolls various sporting events, including boxing, football, Formula One, and now golf. Although Norman suggests he had secured an extra $2 billion from PIF to allow his LIV Golf project to run for decades, he claims he has never met bin Salman and has no problem if players who join the circuit speak out against the human rights issues. Every player is entitled to their voice and opinion, he said. Talk about this whole thing about Saudi Arabia and human rights, but also talk about the effort the country is making to change its culture. The 67-year-old continued, "There are few countries that can be proud of that. They obviously can't be proud of their past because they have a cross to bear too, but they're trying to look after the younger generation." However, Greg has been a positive element in LIV's spectacular development. The former world number one has seen the LIV progress to a full-fledged competitor to the PGA Tour from a discarded notion. Now, a man who has committed his life and a greater part of his career to developing something that is now capable of rivaling the age-long PGA Tour is being asked to step aside, or, in this case, is asked to move up to an uncertain higher position only to be replaced by a man named Mark King. Is Mark King worthy of replacing the White Shark? Mark is an accomplished businessman who has successfully led 2 sports companies. Currently, serving as Taco Bell's chief executive officer, Mark has been in the spotlight for the past few weeks after meeting with the Saudi Public Investment Fund Governor Yasir Al-Rumayyan. The former chief executive officer of TaylorMade, Adidas Golf Company, graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. In the sports marketing industry, King is a household name, and during his tenure as TaylorMade's chief executive, the company witnessed immense success, growing from $300 million to over $1.7 billion. King spent 34 years at TaylorMade and was promoted from territory sales to president before becoming the company's CEO in 2002. In June 2014, Mark joined Adidas, doubling its market share in just 3 years. He also created suitable working conditions for his employees, doubling the number of staff. Before King left Adidas in 2018, where he had served as the brand's North American president, the company had $4.2 billion in sales in fiscal 2017, which was increased by 27% from the previous year. After working with the brand for over 5 years, Mark joined Taco Bell, where he was tasked with the responsibility of driving the overall brand strategy. Taking his 40 years of work experience into consideration, Mark possesses a fantastic knowledge of advertising and sports marketing and has the credentials to become the next chief executive of LIV Golf. With that said, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more exciting golf content. With Atul Khosla out, is Norman next? Atul Khosla, LIV Golf's former chief operating officer who was meant to guide the Saudi-backed league into the franchise model, a basis on which it had staked its viability, resigned in just over a year after his appointment, having previously served as the NFL's Tampa Bay Buccaneers chief corporate development and brand officer. The veteran sport executive's exit from the upstart circuit comes as the startup struggles to maintain and gain more traction and, confidential records reported by the New York Times suggest, is quite far from reaching the benchmarks that would make it a success. At the conclusion of LIV's inaugural season, Atul Khosla chose to move on, LIV's Commissioner Greg Norman said in a statement. We respect AK and his personal decision. Khosla is not the first senior official to leave LIV this year alone, and the outfit has been questioned over Greg Norman's future, a 2-time winner of the British Open and a fierce critic of the PGA Tour's design. However, while AK was increasingly seen as the league's executive most integral to fashion a way forward, a departure by Greg Norman would threaten to deprive the organization of one of men's golf's time-tested and most familiar voices. LIV Golf denies replacing Greg Norman. When the speculations became rife, the tour's managing director, Majid El Sarrour, was quick to shut down the notion in a statement. Greg Norman is our commissioner and CEO. Any rumor that his function or title is changing is incorrect, he concluded. El Sarrour wasn't the only one to dispel the rumors, as Greg's son, Norman Jr., took to Twitter to voice his displeasure, calling it a propaganda machine in action. However, according to Sports Illustrated, sources have it that there are quite a number of extremely professional executives already in LIV Golf. But a serious figure like Mark King could be what the organization needs to take the next step. Already, the Saudis have committed more than $2 billion to this, and they clearly want the business plan to be defined and visible rather than chaotic. The fact it has been quite frantic is understandable, as they have had to do everything totally off the hoof. And where they've got off a standing start, albeit with an open checkbook, is very impressive. But now it is time for a clinical vision and calm heads that someone like Mark King could provide. And if the PGA and DP World Tour want to negotiate, then maybe King is a much less combative character than Greg Norman. Despite the controversy, Norman has maintained that one of his top priorities is to add more high-end talent ahead of the upcoming season. There had been rumors that some of the PGA Tour's top stars, including Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele, could join LIV Golf in 2023. However, if Greg is replaced as chief executive, it may become King's or anyone else's job to add more talent. But do you think Mark King is a viable replacement capable of shouldering the fierce criticism while making things work? Should Greg Norman be replaced? For more intriguing golf content from us, click this video showing on your screen right now.